For over 30 years, the Gay and Lesbian Humanist Association has provided a voice for gay humanism in the United Kingdom and beyond, fighting for gay rights as human rights. It is a great pleasure to invite Derek Lennard to speak on behalf of GALA. Derek has been a chair of the Gay and Lesbian Humanist Association and is currently the coordinator of the International Day Against Homophobia. Please welcome Derek Lennard.
Hey! Go on, Derek!
For GALA today, this demonstration is just not about what we believe in, it's actually about who we are. We were formed 31 years ago, partly in response to the blasphemy laws in this country. And can I say, looking around, that it's a pleasure to see so many organisations and people who fought with us to get rid of that wretched blasphemy law in this country. Yes! Our organisation was born from the experience of those who wanted to get on with their own lives as gay people and find an alternative to religious teachings and practices which were ruining so many of their and their friends' lives. Some members of our organisation are still alive who experienced aversion therapy in the 1950s in this country. Many of us have friends and colleagues who are still experiencing oppressive practices around the world, and of course the Pope has chosen to interfere with our rights as LGBT people in his opposition and disgraceful meddling in the Equality Bill.
Yeah. Boo! Boo!
So please understand this. For members of GALA here today, and for many others, this demonstration is not just political, it's up close and it's personal. Now, last week I heard a radio interview with a spokesman from the Catholic Church, and in response to a question about the Pope's meddling with the Equality Bill, he said, "The Pope doesn't give political leadership, he gives moral leadership."
Bollocks! Bollocks!
Well, the LGBT community isn't always united, and it would be a brave, and some would say foolhardy person who claimed to represent all their beliefs. But today I'm going to do just that, because I am absolutely certain that not one member of that LGBT community needs a lesson on morality from any representative of a church that has presided over the most disgraceful child abuse scandal and cover-up that we have seen for so many years. Not one person. And isn't it deeply ironic, when you think of it, that in the 50s and 60s, what were the stereotypes about gay and lesbian people, often encouraged by people from religious organisations? We were child molesters. We were conspirators. We acted furtively and secretly to have our wicked way with vulnerable people who we took advantage of. Well, that never applied to the gay community, but it certainly seems to be quite close to representing another organisation I know very closely.
Yes! Yes!
And by the way, I stand before you, and it's appropriate, after all, with a confession.
He's here, look.
I shall come before you later. I didn't mean that literally. I am a rationalist, still getting over it. Now let me refer to the International Day Against Homophobia, which was so kindly mentioned. All around the world, you know the story, LGBT people can be imprisoned in at least 60 countries just for being who they are. They can be harassed, or even in some countries judicially murdered because of their sexual orientation or gender identity. And on December the 19th, 2008, finally a statement addressing these issues was presented to the General Council of the United Nations. That was a huge step for us. Of course, it didn't solve the problem. That's going to take a long, long time. But for the General Council for the United Nations to agree to that declaration was a big step in our history. So the statement was signed by 66 countries. But what did the Holy See say about it? On this historic occasion, what did this great man, this intelligent man, representing this church, have been to so many seminaries and seminars over the years, interspersed with the odd inquisition. What great words of wisdom did he say on this occasion when we were debating life and death issues about our community? And I would read it out, but I don't think any of you would believe it. Because he said, yes, the Vatican is against discrimination against gay people. It's also against discrimination against the countries which discriminate against them. So the problem is not that those young people in Saudi Arabia were executed for having the audacity for going to a party. The problem is we mustn't discriminate against the political leaders of countries like Saudi Arabia. Turn the world on its head. The Pope is entitled to visit the UK, and let him be supported by his religious cronies. But there is no way a state, a government, who is supposed to support equality. Can you see that the ludicrousness of it? There were concessions made in the bill in favour of the Pope. They changed the equality bill because the Pope was visiting. The equality bill. Can you see the absurdity of it by an equality minister? But there is no way a state, a government who's supposed to support equality, should be funding such a visit, let alone fawning over him and giving him all the trappings of the state. That is an insult to LGBT people and many others.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Come on! All of it.
In our community, many of us feel a surge of anger about how our lives are frequently being interfered with by one religion or another. Every time we hear about another gay bashing, or the murder of a trans person in Latin America, or a young gay man being bullied at school, every time we hear about another young man being executed in the name of Islam, or an evangelical group stoking up hatred in Uganda, no one who has had anything to do with spreading this hatred can be supported by our country and our government. And we say, it is time. Look at what is happening around the world to LGBT people. Look at the injustices that we are suffering. And we can only come to the conclusion, we should say, as other religions have had to say in their history when they've been discriminated against by other religions, we have one thing to say. Let our people free!
Yes!